Hello everybody, how are you all doing? Welcome back to Man City Unplugged, your very own Man City fan channel. That community shield match, it didn't hurt as much because after all it was a community shield and it's just bordering on between, little bit of competitive, and it was more of a pre-season friendly kind of a thing, but there were certain issues that definitely I wouldn't deflect from. Like, I wouldn't just say okay, Liverpool are much more sharper, more pre-season games, that's why they won. No, there were some glaring issues that the community shield match actually showed us, some issues that have a possibility to even derail our Premier League season. So we actually need to address them. I'm a bit worried about how quickly we can address them, because West Ham away is anyway difficult, and to start the first game of the season without much preseason, without much preparation at West Ham away is a big challenge. I mean, I would have preferred a much more slightly a much more easier game, for example, but. West Ham away is going to be difficult. So I mean, the clear and one of the glaring issues is not about the form of Haaland and stuff. That I'm not concerned about. Haaland will come good for sure. But the first thing is, we should stop being so reactionary, especially because last season, we lost the Community Shield. And then we lost even our first game against Spurs. But then you all know what we did last season. So I mean, it's important that instead of being reactionary and telling that maybe we need such and such player is not good enough. For example, I've seen a lot of criticism in our fan base against Jack Grealish, for example, and even Nathan Ake got his fair share of stick and stuff like that. So instead of all that, the important thing is we go on and identify what are the issues that we need to address. The first thing is Jack Grealish. I know that's the title of the video, but I mean, Jack Grealish is an interesting thing because last season he was not good, and we know that Mahrez didn't come good in his in his first season, and then he adapted to the Pep system. Everybody thought that the second season will be the breakthrough year, but I mean, you compare the preseason games for preseason games for Jack Grealish with what happened against Liverpool. There's a glaring difference. The difference is in the preseason games, both the games, Wilson Esperance started at left back. And against Liverpool, Cancelo started. Now, I think that is why Jack Grealish that is the problem why Jack Grealish is not able to uh, perform at the high level. See, Cancelo cuts inside. Jack Grealish also cuts inside. It really means you're having two players who are effectually trying to do the same thing. Which means there's no width. Which means when two players are cutting inside, it effectively means that both the opposition fullback, like against Liverpool, both Robertson and the other one Henderson, for example, were doubling up on him, and that's it. So it's so easy to defend. It's almost a similar kind of a problem that when Sanchez went to United, both Pogba and Sanchez were almost playing in the same positions. Why is Dybala not successful in a system with Lionel Messi? Both occupy the same positions. So almost a similar kind of a debate. We've seen Cancelo cutting in, and the other thing is Cancelo can't go on the outside and cross the ball. That is, well, he can theoretically, but it's so difficult. Him being uh, him being a right footer naturally, that's so difficult. So I think the thing about Jack Grealish is you can criticize him as much as you want. You can say that he is not suited to this Pep system and all, but to unlock Jack Grealish, either you have to play him in central midfield or you have to play a fullback who can overlap, for example, like a Cucurella, like a Rafael Guerrero, for example, whom we have been linked with. We'll talk about him a little bit more. So I think with this Jack Grealish issue, which was one of the glaring issues in that Liverpool game, it's simply about having a left back who can overlap and provide the width and releasing Jack Grealish. Vishnu is here, Vishnu. Jack is the main key for Haaland, but he can't. See, Vishnu, it's almost like a domino effect here. See, Jack is the main key for Haaland, but the main key for Jack here is having a his Cucurella or having a fullback who can overlap. So literally, it's almost three players connected with each other, having a fullback who can provide the width, who unlocks Jack Grealish, who in turn unlocks Erling Haaland. So I guess it's all connected over there. So and also there's a bit of bad news in that regard, that the move for Marc Cucurella, top sources are reporting that the move might actually have broken down, because last week the news is City have bid around 40 million pounds or something like that for Marc Cucurella, and Brighton 150. Brighton are adamant about 50 million pounds. So the Athletic are reporting, who are considered tier one, David Ornstein. So the Athletic are reporting that City are looking at other targets, especially Rafael Guerrero from Borussia Dortmund. He will not come cheap. And my thing with Rafael Guerrero is he's injury prone, and I do not want another left back who is injury prone. Especially seeing what happened to Mendy, seeing we have never had a proper left back since 2017. So Rafael Guerrero is very good attacking wise, but again, would Rafael Guerrero be another Mendy? That is another question. I have question marks over Rafael Guerrero's defensive attributes. Not as solid as a Cucurella. Yes, he can come inside attacking wise. His attacking positions are brilliant. They're suited to Pep Guardiola. But so there are literally question marks over Rafael Guerrero. So I mean, but we are looking at him. See, now the clouds are clearing a bit over Cucurella and things. So the alternatives in front of us are David Ram is out of the question, because he has news is that he's signing a new contract with Leipzig and things like that. So it's either Sosa or Alex Grimaldo and Rafael Guerrero. So these are the three options in front of us. And can we get on in this season without a left back? That is another question, because let's imagine we go on in the season without a proper left back. So what are our options then? See the thing is, it's not that we can't compete for the Premier League title without signing another left back. We well can. We competed without a striker. Pep might turn another midfielder into a left back. I'll not be surprised if Pep turns a Jack Grealish into a left back or a Foden into a left back for this season. So all of those things are possible. The only thing is, this season is unlike any other season. So it's a World Cup year. You'll almost be playing a game every 3 days right from the start. So is Kyle Walker and Joao Cancelo and possibly a Nathan Ake. So with three left backs, is it possible for you to play every 3 days, then go into a World Cup year, and then come back and again play every 3 days in the Champions League, FA Cup? Can effectively these three players sustain such amount of playing pressure? The answer is no. The answer is absolutely no. And again, the reason why we sold Zinchenko must have been that we must have been confident of getting at least one left back this season to replace. See, it's and people might again think that without striker is managed it, but I think the gravity of this issue is not being addressed as it should be. The gravity of the issue is Mendy is out, Zinchenko is out, so literally you've sold two players and you've not replaced them with anyone. Two first team players. I don't get into this argument that Wilson S. Brand is there and Wilson S. Brand is a cover from Mendy. No, Wilson S. Brand himself is injury prone. Wilson S. Brand himself is just getting into the first team, getting used to the first team. I don't want Wilson S. Brand to become another Angelino, for example. So I mean, so the gravity of this issue is much more than what people think, because the key to signing a left back is not just improving the depth. See, last season when we were playing against Aston Villa, just go and watch the highlights of the last few games of the season. Wolves, Brighton, Aston Villa. What is the common thread in all of the last games? The common thread is teams defending narrow. The common thread is Cancelo being almost ineffective. The common thread is Zinchenko having to come on the pitch, especially in the last 3-4 games of the season. Zinchenko having to come on the pitch and him having to rescue the situation. Aston Villa is a clear example. You don't even have to look beyond Aston Villa on the last day. So I mean, after the Centurion season, what Pep said was, uh, you know, it was a show on Sky Sports, I think, and Gary Neville asked him, "You've got 100 points this season. What are the things that you need to address?" So in 2017, Pep said that teams man-marked a TM with their striker, and it was very difficult to break them down. And the next season, we signed players, and we got out of that. So this season, the key is to sign players who could unlock teams who defend narrow and double up on our left back. That is being done almost since the last part of the previous season, and if we don't address it this season, I mean, there is a genuine possibility of this season ending up like the 2020 season. We won the 2019 season with 1 point. 2020 season collapse. We couldn't compete for the Premier League title. Liverpool had a free run. I do not want the repeat of that. So signing a left back improves our depth, and more importantly, it releases Jack Grealish. More importantly, it releases Phil Foden. What are the best attributes of Phil Foden? What are the best attributes of Jack Grealish? Not maintaining width and just slipping off on the width of the line, right? The best attributes of Grealish and Foden are to cut inside, to have the opposition defenders on their toes. And for that, you need to maintain width. And Cucurella or whoever it may be, we need him to maintain width. And you know, the game looked slow, especially in the first half against Liverpool, right? And on the stream, we were discussing that the game is slow with Mahrez and Grealish and things like that. You know why the game became slow? Because there was no one to maintain the width over there. So Mahrez and Grealish had to come inside to fill up numbers in the midfield. It was becoming so much predictable. It's almost like a domino effect now, and I know I've seen a lot of people discussing on social media forums and things like that we have had a legendary transfer window. We've signed Haaland, Calvin Phillips. No, the signing of a left back, we have signed them, but the signing of a left back is the key to unlocking them. Okay, you sign all of the locks, but you throw the key in the river. What is the use of that? The use of that is nothing, right? So I absolutely do think that signing a left back is very important. But I'm not a big fan of Rafael Guerrero, not a big fan of Alex Grimaldo, not a big. Okay, Sosa is fine somehow, but it's either Sosa or Cucurella. But the valuation, the difference in valuation is 10 million pounds. Maybe I think they will. I mean, they will address the gap in valuation with by bringing in someone on loan and things like that. Maybe I don't know. I do not know, but I do. I mean, the news from Fabrizio Romano is that we will. We will know what is happening with Cucurella uh, this week. I mean, by the end of this week, by the start of the Premier League campaign. So that is something to watch out for. I expect some concrete news regarding a left back. It could be Cucurella, it could be someone else. Concrete news regarding a left back to come out by the middle of this week. I think this is the first time after last month, you know, our tier one journalists like David Ornstein and Sam Lee have stated that City are interested in Cucurella at, at the beginning of the last month, and I think it is now again they're telling that we are going for other left back options. So suddenly, when your tier one are reporting something, suddenly I think the club is now, I won't say panicking, but the club is now in a sort of a rush mode that we need to sign a fullback. Dr. Bell is here. Hey, Dr. Bell, how are you? He says you get the best out of players like Grealish when you give them a solid role. No moving around like Pep likes. Also, Dr. Bell, the thing is, Grealish is given a solid role. Grealish is given clear instructions, right? But the only thing is, Cancelo, the fullback is also cutting in, which means Grealish is cutting in, the fullback is cutting in. So it's literally that two players are occupying the same positions. Not Cancelo's fault because he's a right footer being asked to play at left back. So the thing with Grealish is you give a proper left back, get a proper left back, he overlaps, he provides the width, and then Grealish comes in and Grealish dribbles inside. So I think that is the big problem we are facing now. And also it's a bit surprising for me that we leave this transfer of a fullback so late when a fullback was much more of a priority than a midfielder, I think, okay, Fernandinho has left, but Gundogan can still play there. But Mendy is not there. Zinchenko has left. So I don't understand this priority order, why we haven't got a fullback. Maybe all the while we were confident that Cucurella will come. We'll have to see, but most of our tier 1 journalists are saying by the middle of this week, and at the most by the end of this week before the West Ham game, we will know the status of on Cucurella, for example. I mean, and other glaring issue that I've noticed actually against Liverpool is that centre back. We need a ball playing centre back there. Without a ball playing centre back, why Liverpool were able to stifle us, why Liverpool were able to press the hell out of us, because lack of ball playing options for Nathan Ake, lack of ball playing options for Ruben Diaz. I mean, Ruben Diaz and Nathan Ake in a Pep Guardiola system, I can never expect it unless there's a catastrophe. I mean, even when there was a catastrophe at the back last season, Pep preferred to play with a Fernandinho and a Ruben Diaz, or a Fernandinho and a Nathan Ake, if you remember. Pep never liked to pair Nathan Ake and a Ruben Diaz because both are not ball playing centre backs. John Stones needs to play over there. John Stones needs to start actually. That was another glaring issue that I actually noticed. And another point is that Haaland, Haaland was making so many runs. Haaland was, I mean, one thing we need to understand is, I mean, it seemed on the outset that when you're looking in real time, Haaland had a terrible game. KDB had a worse game. But what the problem is? The problem is that we were playing in a false nine system. So KDB was almost used to, giving those cutback passes, taking it till the edge of the box and then cutting it back, giving those curled balls into the box, and those kind of things. KDB was used to it. So I mean, there was one instance when KDB showed his frustration. He had his hands in the air, and Haaland made a run, and he made a run very early, and by the time KDB released the ball, Haaland was actually offside, and KDB was frustrated. The point about Haaland is very quick in making those runs. Haaland is actually, he's onside and is lightning quick in making those runs. It's almost impossible to play a offside trap against Erling Haaland, for example. So I think Kevin De Bruyne needs a bit of a practice, that he needs to play the ball early actually. So that is actually an one thing I thought Kevin De Bruyne and the entire team as well. The midfielders were actually not playing balls to him very early. So that is something which I think we need to work upon. Julian Alvarez, for me, he looked lively when he came on. He was I mean, if Julian Alvarez would have started at striker, maybe probably we would have won that game. But all of these issues would not have come out. All of these glaring issues that were hitting you in the face would not have come out. And another thing is, we can't afford to have a slow start to this season actually, because I know in the past we have had so slow starts to the season. In the past we have recovered from the slow starts. Generally what Pep Guardiola says that after the first international break, which is in mid-September, you generally in every season you play 2-3 games, and then there's an international break, and then Pep says after the first international break, the real season starts. And that is true to an extent. We've worked like that and we have won Premier Leagues in the past. But this season, I think the first international break is way in October or something. So you literally can't afford a slow start. And I know we are looking laggy, we are looking a bit, lack of sharpness and stuff. But with, Liverpool must have realized that they themselves cannot afford a strong start to the season, because literally from January to April, for example, Liverpool won almost all of the games and yet lost out on the Premier League title by 1 point. So I think Liverpool must have realized that to compete against this city's juggernaut, to compete against this monster of Man City, you need to be on it right from the word go. No excuses are accepted. So I actually think that Liverpool will be on it, and you've seen in the past as well, right? In 2019, for example, when we won the title 2020, Liverpool were on it right from the goal. Liverpool were, it almost seemed that Liverpool were inspired, that they were hurt, they were inspired that they lost out the title by 1 point. So I actually think that Liverpool might come out with the same attitude. They got Darwin Nunes, he looked good. It's going to be a tough battle. It's going to be much tougher than people can even imagine. So I mean, Walker, Cancelo, not, I mean, two fullbacks with Walker aging. I don't think are they good enough to get you to a Champions League semi-final. I mean, in terms of quality, they're good enough, but is Walker, Cancelo, and Wilson Esbran, for example, just having these three fullbacks, is it sustainable for you to go to the Champions League semi-final, for example, or deep in the Champions League, deep into the next season? It's not sustainable, because you should remember that they start for the national teams in the World Cup as well. So it's almost like an unsustainable combination that we are going here with. I mean, you absolutely need the fourth fullback. I mean, all this while we were taking the situation a bit more lightly, because we were somewhere confident that we'll get Cucurella, but with news from the Athletic coming today that Cucurella might not join, and City are looking at other targets. It's actually, I'm actually realizing the gravity of the situation, that it's even more worse than we imagine. Vinay says this is not going well. Cucurella to Chelsea. I mean, when Athletic are also reporting that now City have moved on, and City are looking at other options like Rafael Guerrera. I mean, I'm just actually stunned with this issue. I do not know how to react with this issue. See, Cucurella will go to a top club. He is a top player. He will go to a top club. And 50 million Chelsea. See, Chelsea were willing to pay 50 million for Ake, round about that figure. Chelsea were willing to pay 50 for Jules Koundé. So Chelsea will play 50 for Cucurella in the blink of an eye. And and I don't know how true the links to this I don't know how true these Chelsea links are, but Chelsea are already having Chilwell, and still if they sign Cucurella, I mean, last season James and Chilwell were injured, and Thomas Tuchel knows the depth of the wing backs in his system and stuff. Not going well, mate. I'm sat here and thinking, actually, what other alternatives do we have if we don't sign Cucurella? Well, Grimaldo is not good enough. Sosa is, I mean, so Rafael Guerrera. Do you think Rafael Guerrera is good enough? Rafael Guerrera is the name that is going around, and we might have to pay round about 50 million pounds for Rafael Guerrera, and the club will go and pay it for 50 million pounds for him. And I mean, I do not understand this. Cucurella, why will not you not pay 50 million? Why will you pay 50 million for Rafael Guerrera? Because I think we are in need. We might pay that, but I actually do not know. Vinay says he's horrible. I've heard that he's not good enough defensively. I've seen Rafael Guerrera's things on YouTube. I mean, reading that in Athletic and stuff. His attacking is good. I know he's a very good attacker, but I've heard he's horrible defensively. Now you have to tell me how founded are those things about his defense, but he's not good enough defensively. He's prone to injuries and stuff like that. So is Rafael Guerrera a starter for Portugal? I do not know. Vinicius Lodi, check Enrique of Monaco can be an option. Renan Lodi is interesting. I was actually surprised that we are not going for. We did not go for Renan Lodi. But Renan Lodi has all the attributes that Pep Guardiola asks. His attacking, I mean, everything. He's defensively good because he's played in that Atletico Madrid setup. Attacking wise, you know what Renan Lodi can do. He is a monster when he cuts inside, the spaces he occupies. But again, Renan Lodi, Cucurella, similar kind of a players. But do you get Renan Lodi for 40 million pounds? The answer is no. I mean, the frustrating thing with the board is, see, I've not been frustrated with the board for a while. Actually, we have done some wonderful transfer business. Everything has been fantastic. But I think this is a chink after a long time. But 40 million pounds Cucurella you're hanging on, right? What other fullback will you get for 40 million pounds? You are getting Alex Grimaldo for 40 million pounds, and then maybe a Sosa for 30. That's it. You're not going to get any of the good fullbacks for 40 million pounds. You have to sell out 50. And I'm actually thinking for a while that 50 might actually be less for Cucurella. For example, world class. See, in 2 years he could double his value when playing under Pep easily. See, Cancelo is almost an 80-90 million pound rated player in the market nowadays. We got him for around 50-55, right? So I mean the why we are not the points are just they're fascinating me, they're making me go berserk actually. The reasons what Tixiki might be thinking, why he might be thinking that 40 million pounds is a good price for Cucurella, and why we are not valuation bullshit valuation. In which market is Cucurella valued 40 million pounds? Vinay says, but he is important player for Atletico Madrid. Exactly, Vinay. Lodi would cost you 70 million pounds, 80 million pounds, right? And you're getting Cucurella at half the price. I mean, 50 million pounds for a player who is having 4 years on his contract. Tell me tell me at which club will you get an important player who's been the player of the season for them? 50 million pounds. He has 4 years on his contract. And it's an important position because see, Cucurella will unlock Grealish will unlock Haaland, and maintaining width would mean you unlock De Bruyne. You suddenly have Cancelo. You unlock Cancelo because suddenly Cancelo can maintain the width on the right side. Cucurella can maintain the width on the left side. That would mean Riyad Mahrez would cut inside from the right. Grealish can and Foden can cut inside from the left. That would mean Kevin De Bruyne could make the runs into the space into the midfield. See, against Liverpool, it was clearly evident. Mahrez cutting inside, Grealish cutting inside. Poor KDB didn't have space to make a run in the middle, and he dropped deep. I mean, it's such a domino effect. Signing a left back could actually unlock four players this season. I mean, it's a bit of an afterthought thinking how Zinchenko, even with his limited defensive capabilities, had unlocked so many players. Vinay says Aitnouri is a Premier League option. Sosa isn't that good, and Ram wants Leipzig. We are in trouble. So I mean, if Sosa is that good, would he come for 25 million pounds? Again, Vinay, Sosa could be a liability, right? Coming from Bundesliga, where the attributes are certainly different. And Hililo, for example, did well in the Bundesliga, then came back to City, didn't do well again, went back to Leipzig. So I mean, I'm worried about picking up a left back from the Bundesliga because it's actually not the same. It's the players, the power. It's not actually the same as the Premier League. Aitnouri is interesting. Aitnouri is very interesting. Aitnouri you might get Aitnouri for 20-25 million pounds. Defensively is very solid. But with Aitnouri, my worry is Aitnouri good enough to defend in a back four? I mean, one on one. Is Aitnouri good enough offensively, or occupying those spaces? I think of all of the options mentioned here, like Sosa and all of them, apart from Lodi, I think Aitnouri might be the next best option. Are there any left backs in the Premier League who are good enough that we're missing out on? Aitnouri is one. Liv Cucurella. Apart from that, are there any good left backs in the Premier League who we can sign? What about that left back at Southampton? I do not know. He's not good enough. I think they're not good enough left backs in the Premier League as well. Apart from these two, I mean we are in trouble, guys. We are in trouble. I hate to say that we are actually in trouble. I'm actually having. I mean, I'm afraid actually. I'm in a bit of a terrible mood that how did we allow, how did this transfer juggernaut allow us to get into this position actually. Vinay says again, right now he's 50 million. I've seen him 1v1 very good. He calmed out Salah. Now you know. I mean, defense has never been a question for Aitnouri Vinay. Wolves are solid. Aitnouri a very good defensive player, but offensively, that's the thing here. And that's the terrible feeling I'll always have about Cucurella. It will not be about winning the Premier League, because without Cucurella as well, we can actually win the Premier League. That's not the point. The thing about signing Cucurella or that profile of a fullback is unlocking the potential of that left hand side of Pep, actually giving license to a Grealish. Grealish could become a flop this season. For example, we don't sign a left back. Grealish could become a flop this season, and he would actually leave City. For example, we could sell him. Could be a transfer that hasn't worked out, and all of that could be attributed to us bargaining for 10 million pounds. Right? See, is Grealish 100 million pounds? I know it's his release clause, but is Grealish 100 million pounds at a fair valuation in the market? No. Grealish is round about that 70 million pounds, right? At the most 70 80 million pounds at the most. Grealish was never 100 million pounds. You overpaid 20 30 million pounds for him. Overpay for Cucurella. Overpay for Cucurella. See, Cucurella would have been the difference, could be the difference in getting over Real Madrid in the Champions League semi-final and crashing out. Even if Cucurella helps you win that one game, all of the 20 million pounds is repaid. All of that extra thing you paid for Cucurella is repaid in full and in bonuses, right? So Vinay says after that Liverpool FC howler, this is more worrying. I mean, I mean, frankly speaking, the entire defense looked an issue for me. It looked unbalanced. It looked like we were. See, the thing with us is we attack from the back and we defend from the front, right? And why our defensive structure broke down was, the first 10 minutes we were very good defensively, for example, and then Haaland's press was a bit Haaland into the pressing well. So Pep literally changed it into a 4-4-2 pressing shape, and De Bruyne went into the press with Haaland. That's fine. Haaland will adapt. But then from the back, attack from the back, we were not able to pass from the back. We were unable to pick out the passing lanes, and suddenly, if you see the game, just see the highlights clips. Don't even need to go into the tactical analysis. Ederson, he was chipping balls out to Walker, chipping balls out to Cancelo. That shows you that the centre backs and Rodri. Firmino was covering Rodri, so Rodri was not a passing lane. So literally, the centre backs were out. Ederson didn't trust the centre backs to both of the centre backs to find Rodri or to pass it out. So literally it became one dimensional. So that is also another issue for me. Vinay says Grealish, Haaland, Mahrez. Definitely Pep experimented this trio knowing that lack of pressing. I mean, Haaland is excusable. Haaland is excusable here because he needs to understand the system, and he tried absolutely well. He didn't have the fitness to carry out the pressing thing. Haaland is excusable. But initially I think we were discussing it on the stream as well, right? Mahrez, Grealish, slow and all. But then when I looked back, it wasn't an issue just because of Grealish and Mahrez. It was again an issue. I mean, when Pep's teams don't give you that width, it is always a big issue. Lack of width in Pep's teams that has never gone well for us. And see, Walker doesn't provide you width because Walker doesn't come forward as much, right? Cancelo cuts inside. So where is the width coming from? Without the width, it's almost like you're playing a game of football in a small box, and where the opponent can easily cover that entire area. So I think see, our major problem is, our primary problem is lack of width. Give width to that team, and literally a Jack Grealish is given wings. Literally a Mahrez is giving wings. So let us imagine that we have Cucurella and Cancelo playing on either side. Cucurella will maintain width, and your Robertson now, for example, do you go inside with Jack Grealish, for example, or do you stay outside with the overlapping fullback? You have a decision to make again. We are not giving the fullbacks that decision to make, and that is where the fullbacks are finding this day. Defending against us easy. It carried on from last season. Real Madrid did this to us. Lack of width. When I says Grealish never a winger, put him in midfield. Bernardo can play in the wings. But again, Bernardo in the wings, do you get the best out of Bernardo on the wings? Maybe you get more than Grealish. But again, with Cancelo playing, be it with Grealish or be it with Bernardo, both have to maintain the width. See, a system should be formulated in such a way that you get the best out of all of the players who are in that system, right? And with these pieces in the system, Cancelo, Grealish, Haaland, Mahrez, how do you get the best out of these players in a system? How do you design a system to get the best out of these players? Overlapping fullbacks who can maintain the width. Natural fullbacks, left foot. Fullbacks who can go either side, cut inside and go on the outside. Cancelo was struggling to put the ball inside. So I mean, I really hate to say this, but without a fullback, it's going to be difficult. It's actually going to be difficult. We might be having good results, but it's actually going to be difficult to navigate through the season. After every game, we have to be sitting here and discussing. Oh, how will we plan the next game? What will be the effect of not buying a left back? I mean, it's so frustrating. Vinay says, what I felt was we are playing as if we don't have a striker. Poor Haaland didn't get that proper service. See, Vinay, we were not sharp, agreed. We were not up to the laces, we were not up to the speed, agreed. But the thing is, literally, KDB had a good chance. If you notice in the first half, he hits the side netting. He scored a similar chance against Club America. KDB had a good chance. Erling Haaland had two good chances, two or three good chances on another day. Haaland would have had a hat trick, for example. If KDB was in top form, he plays those balls early. Haaland would have had a hat trick. So literally, with City not in a proper position, not sharp, we could easily have scored 3 or 4 against Liverpool, for example. With the Liverpool side who have put out the best team, with the Liverpool side who are up to the laces. So it's actually, I mean, the 3-1 score line doesn't reflect uh, what has happened. It was never a 3-1 score line. I think 1-1 was the fair reflection. Dodgy handball penalty, and then, it all went off. So 3-1 was never a fair reflection of the game. Vinay says, after seeing Pep for years, City must target players with recovery pace. See, Cucurella has good pace as well. Again, I know it's becoming quite repetitive and boring. That whatever we discuss, it's almost again coming back to Cucurella, coming back to why we should sign Cucurella and all. But see, there are two aspects: recovery pace and positioning. I mean, if you're Pep, for example, would you actually trust a Josh Wilson as brand? Because Josh Wilson as brand has really good recovery pace. Very good recovery pace, Josh Wilson as brand. I know he didn't use it in the preseason games, but he has excellent recovery pace. So, do you trust a Josh Wilson as brand if you are Pep Guardiola and take a gamble on him? I mean, just imagine this from the point of view of Pep Guardiola, for example. All your life all your life you've been taking chances on players. What has made you a manager at this level is taking bets on players who normal mortals would not have taken a chance on. All your life, what has made you Pep Guardiola is giving players who are little known play chances over the players who are much more hyped and stuff. So seeing all of these things about Pep, I really think that Pep Guardiola will start Josh Wilson as brand this season. No way is Pep Guardiola starting Joao Cancelo there on the left hand side. Well, he might for a few games, but I mean, Josh Wilson as brand needs to start. Josh Wilson as brand. I mean, and a ball playing centre back is also another issue. So John Stones, Josh Wilson as brand needs to start. I mean, glaring issues in that Liverpool game, but it's evident what we need to start. Vinay says check out players from championship maybe. Uh, Players in the again, Vinay, it's almost a learning curve, right? Which when you pick up players from the championship, it will almost be a learning curve that they will have to adjust to the rigors of the Premier League. It's definitely a level up because in the last 6 years, for example, the three teams that have, except Brentford last season, all of the three teams in the last 6 years who have come up are generally going down. So three up and the three down, and the same three almost down. So that tells you that the players in the championship who have been excellent in the championship might not actually be that suited to the rigors of the Premier League immediately. They would take time to acclimatize. And here you have a ready-made thing in Cucurella. I mean, we can sit here and talk about all of the alternatives for Cucurella and whom we should sign, but at the end of the discussion, it's all coming back to why we need to sign Cucurella. But then again, what I think is we will either sign Cucurella or Pep will take a gamble and throw in Josh Wilson as brand. I mean, what do you think about Pep taking a gamble on Josh Wilson as brand this season and almost declaring that Josh Wilson as brand is my first choice left back in Cancelo and Walker share the space on the right? So it's Wilson as Brand, Cancelo and Walker are our fullbacks with Ake maybe covering. So I know that will be a daring move for Pep to trust Josh Wilson as Brand and put him into the big league straight away. But Pep has done this in the past with so many players, right? So it I mean it would actually be the most Pep like thing. It would be a younger Pep, if a younger Pep in 2008 9 talking to the older one version of himself today, what Pep would be telling himself is start Josh Wilson as Brand. He has shown you enough in the preseason games. Surprised that he didn't start Josh Wilson as Brand against Liverpool. So I think this Rafael Guerrero rumors, Alex Grimaldo, Sosa. I mean, just like we've discussed, not good enough. All the three. You see, either for me, if you ask me personally, looking at this situation, I think you either sign Cucurella or you just take a gamble and start Josh Wilson as Brand, for example. So that is the thing for me. No need to sign a Grimaldo, Sosa, and Rafael Guerrero and all that. See, they might not be good enough, and on the other side, it would have a negative effect because you would again be blocking the development of a Josh Wilson as Brand by doing that. So it would almost have a counter effect, and that is what we do not want. And also in the preseason games, it was evidently clear that Jack Grealish was very good. For example, against Bayern Munich, against okay, he made a few indecisive decisions, but he at least had the freedom to dribble one on one, right? He at least had the freedom to show us that he's doing something in those preseason games, which he didn't do against Liverpool. A common thread is Josh Wilson as Brand going on the outside and releasing him. And when Josh Wilson as Brand decided to dribble inside, Grealish went on the outside. So I actually think that Wilson as Brand and Grealish might be the most underrated combo this season, and it's actually good. Just imagine, thinking from positive side, we don't get Cucurella, Wilson as Brand starts, and Wilson as Brand becomes the perfect fullback for us. Suddenly, you have a Phil Foden and a Josh Wilson as Brand, and with Cole Palmer looking to break through, and I mean, suddenly it almost seems like your academy players are finding a path into the team. And another reason why we need to sign a left back or give Wilson as Brand good positions is too many left-footed players. Mahrez left-footed, Grealish left-footed, Foden left-footed, Haaland left-footed. Who is the right-footed player here? Mahrez left footer. Only I think in our front attacking front three who can play in the front three positions. It's only Alvarez who's the left footer. I think. Sorry, who's the right footer? I think everyone is left footed. Everyone is left footed. So this is another thing. So many left footers. You need to have a natural left back who can overlap because they would want to cut inside. When I says we should thank Klopp's Liverpool FC, they showed us our levels. Really thank them actually. Really thank them. Imagine this happens against West Ham or another team. You literally lose 3 points, right? And one point is deciding Premier League titles. Each point is so crucial. We literally know that from the last 2 3 seasons. So we literally have to thank. Liverpool. See some games when you lose some games, you're like disappointed. That Real Madrid game, for example, we did everything right. Okay, there were issues at then, but we did everything right, and you lost. You're disappointed. Why there's destiny against us? But after that Liverpool game, see, this doesn't happen often with me. But after that Liverpool game, I was right. I was actually like, okay, we lost this game, but there is disappointment a bit. But actually, I'm glad it happened because there are certain issues we need to look into, like when I pointed out. So good. So and we were also talking midway through the game, right, Vinay? That this game certainly whatever happens with the Liverpool game, we will be targeting a fullback after this game, left back after this game. So essential in Liverpool game reiterated why it is so essential. Now says we need explosion in wings, which isn't from Grealish and Mahrez. Uh, Again, the combination, I think, when I like we were discussing mid game as well, that the combination isn't right. You play a Grealish, you play one explosive winger along with Haaland. You play one explosive winger and you play one technical winger. So it could be a Grealish, Haaland, Alvarez, or it could be a Foden, Haaland, Mahrez. I mean, things like that, combinations like that. I mean, two technical wingers. I think in the past also we've seen this, right? Bernardo, Mahrez, and Foden, for example, in false nine didn't work. Bernardo and Mahrez, similar profile of players. And actually it could be a really good combination if you play an explosive winger on one side and a holding winger, a technical winger on the other side. Honestly, I think we need to unleash Cancelo. Wasted potential of Cancelo, wasted potential of the players playing on the left hand side. Everything hinges on this left back. And I says you saw Sane goal versus Leipzig. I'll actually see. I mean, how much do we miss Sane, right? Sane in these situations would have been. And you're right, actually. Grealish, Sane, we need someone with explosive pace as well, because we are debating at length here about cutting in as well. See, Sane cuts in as well, but a winger cutting in with explosive pace is different, and Grealish and Mahrez don't have that as well. So it's actually, I mean, there are various aspects to it, but looking at the current scenario, I personally think that you either buy Cucurella or you give extended minutes to Wilson as brand. Worth a gamble taking, because he will maintain the width, and once you get the width on that side, at least it will attract the opposition fullback, and Wilson Esperant has recovery pace, so at least De Bruyne and Haaland will take up the mantle. Will take up the mantle. So you get Cucurella or you go on with Wilson Esperant. I think don't want Pereira, Ronaldo, Sosa, and all of those things. Hopefully, in the midweek, this Cucurella issue gets resolved. So we'll look into that. Vinay says, do you think Klopp knows or figures out players better than Pep? Pep wants who entertains his orders. Klopp seems to give players more freedom. I mean, it looks like that, but if you see the amount of players who have come under Klopp and who have come under Pep, I think it's almost, I mean, right from the Barcelona days, Dortmund days, if you almost count, I think it's almost the same. Both are excellent talent finders, both are excellent man managers and stuff. But yeah, you're right. Klopp system, it offers players a little bit more flexibility. I mean, it seems like that, but Pep system is almost like it offers players flexibility in the final third. For example, Pep himself said that in the final third you can be as flexible as possible. I think Klopp system is like, you see certain players, right? Salah, for example. I think the front two especially, both the wingers, they almost have free roles in a Klopp system. But and the midfield is structured in a club system. For example, you see the midfield is a very disciplined. See, Robertson is disciplined, and there are. I think in both systems there are certain players who needs to maintain the discipline, for whom there is it is a necessity for that system that they need to be rigid. For example, for Rodri, Bernardo Silva, specific roles, right? And you see KDB floating, you see Mahrez and Foden exchanging. So I think on the outside it might look club system as more freedom, but I think there is rigidity and there is freedom in both the systems, right? So I do think it's equal, but with the attention to detail. And I think one thing is Klopp doesn't overthink games. Klopp is like, I have this system. How many times have you seen in this last 5 years since Klopp has been in the Premier League? How many times have you seen Klopp, overthink things, like Pep doesn't play a DM in the Champions League final? Klopp is like, I have this system. These are my players, 4-3-3. You go, maybe minor tactical adjustments within the system, but Pep, the thing with Pep is Pep sometimes changes the whole nature of the system. It's almost with Pep like you play with no DM, you sometimes cut inside. I think playing in Pep system is much more complex. It's see, Pep system is almost attributed to microscopic analysis on players' movements. When the ball is in the midfield, this player should be there, he should be there, he should be there. Club system is almost like flowing with the stream. It's almost a bit more, free flowing and stuff like that. But both the systems have their advantages, have their drawbacks, and stuff like that. Vinicius Klopp has dominated Pep from Dortmund days and now in Premier League also. Uh, but one thing with Klopp system is, Klopp, you know why Liverpool have lost the Premier League last season? 1 point, right? The reason is, you see the results against the top four. They have not won any of the matches against the top four, all draws. In the previous seasons also, they've lost on Premier League titles in the previous seasons because Klopp's record against the top four, including even United, I don't put them in top four, but Klopp's record, except last season against United, also under United and Ole, hasn't been good at all. There are plenty of draws over there. I think Pep takes more risks against big teams, and whereas Klopp is a bit more conservative against big teams. So the domination thing, Klopp has dominated, but Pep also has dominated Klopp. Actually, you see the last few fixtures, mostly there have been draws and stuff. So I think it's a very much equal battle. But looking at the battle at the top four against the top four teams, definitely Pep has uh, gotten more victories over top four teams than Klopp. Vinicius players get instantly under Klopp, but Pep himself is complex, so no surprise players will take more time. I think I think players find it easy to understand what to do in a Klopp system, but in a Pep system, the thing is the formation might seem like a 4-3-3 formation, but in a Pep system, the form I mean on the screen you see a 4-3-3 formation, but actually the thing is even inside a 4-3-3 formation without the ball, you are having to adjust to a 4-4-2 with the ball. Sometimes Cancelo is cutting in, you transform to 3 at the back with possession. So without possession, with possession, if the opponent plays a midfield diamond. See, for example, against Liverpool only last season, I was looking at some tactical analysis. Pep changed the system 3 times in that match. He played a pseudo diamond, he played a diamond, he played a 3 at the back. So literally, if you're a player in a Pep system, how many tactical instructions should be running in your head? Pep instantly flicks a switch. He calls a Gundogan onto sideline, for example, and says, "You a change of shape," and Gundogan relays the instructions. Rodri relays the instructions. So I think it's actually much more difficult to play in a Pep system, and that's why players find it complex because keeping the ball. See, Liverpool are not a possession-based team, so keeping the ball, I always think, is much more complex because you're protecting the ball, you're taking all the risk for 90 minutes, and the opponent just needs 5 seconds for a counter attack to score the goal, and you need to play well for 90 minutes. 5 seconds, 90 minutes. That is the risk reward balance you're taking with the Pep system. But whereas with the Klopp system, I think the risk to reward is much more even because Liverpool press high and you leave and they just attack higher, and that's it. They kind of sometimes sit back to lay traps and press higher. So I think Pep system is much more meticulous, and that's the reason why players find it hard, because one mistake the entire system breaks down. Haaland didn't do a good press and suddenly Liverpool went on an attack in the match. So I think that is why players take more time. Now says any option from La Liga, Jose Gaya. I think we are over Jose Gaya. He's a good fullback, and we were linked to him, right? Jose Gaya of Valencia, if I'm not wrong. We were linked to him 2 seasons ago. I think that season when we got Mendy, we were linked to him quite a lot. But I don't think we get Jose Gaya. I mean, the silence around the left back, actually, I mean, it's not as much in the media and as much from the tier 1 journalists. When there's an absolute need for us to get a left back, maybe Pep thinks that Wilson Esbrand is ready. Maybe Pep thinks that Wilson Esbrand is raring to go. Otherwise we would do a deal. This is most unlike City. There must be something that we fans are not able to grasp. We fans are not able to realize. So let us look at it how it happens, how it goes, because I think at the middle of this week or by the end of this week we will actually know. We will actually know what is the status of this fullback situation. But I somehow, I mean, my sense tells me that maybe Pep thinks Josh Wilson as brand is absolutely ready to go. Otherwise, this silence from the board, from the City board. See, it's not about the money. We are 174 million pounds in on sales. We are almost having a net profit of 30-40 million pounds this season. So nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense unless Wilson as brand is. Pep has told to Tixiki that Wilson as brand is ready. He'll be my left back. So nothing is making sense at the moment. But with Pep, nothing makes sense unless you get to the end game. That is Pep Guardiola. He's the best disguiser the world has ever seen. That is why he's Pep. Anyway, guys, I really hope you've enjoyed the show. please click on the like button and also the subscribe button and the bell icon if you've enjoyed the show. And thank you so much again for joining the show. Lovely conversations and lovely comments. Thank you so much, Vinay, for joining the conversation. So it's been wonderful. Again, I'm a bit worried on this Wilson S. Brand issue. So I actually I actually think that we might get a clarity on this issue. Especially we'll get it with the Pep's presser against West Ham. So thank you so much, guys, again, and see you all. Take care.